The message came through on a Tuesday afternoon, cutting through the quiet hum of Tae-sung's laboratory like a knife. He was studying grain samples when his communication device buzzed with an urgent priority code. Someone wanted to see him at the spaceport. Someone from off-world. Tae-sung felt his heart skip. Very few people knew how to reach him directly, and even fewer would use an emergency channel. He set down his work, grabbed his coat, and headed for the door. His assistant asked if everything was okay. He nodded but couldn't find words to answer. The spaceport sprawled across what used to be the old city center. Massive ships came and went daily now, bringing aliens and goods from across the galaxy. Humans had joined the galactic community 20 years ago, and Earth had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. Tae-sung walked through the crowded terminals, past species he could name and dozens he couldn't. The air smelled of ozone and exotic spices. He found the private landing bay listed in the message. His security clearance still worked from his diplomatic days, and the doors slid open. Inside sat a small ship, elegant and silver with the flowing design of the Valora people. Tae-sung stopped breathing for a moment. He knew that design. He knew it too well. She stood beside the ship's ramp exactly as he remembered, and somehow completely different. Lyra. Her skin still held that crystalline shimmer, like light caught in clear water. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with emotions he couldn't read. She wore simple traveling clothes, not the formal robes he remembered from their time together. But she wasn't alone. 2 children stood beside her. A girl maybe 12 years old with Lyra's elegant features but human eyes. A boy, younger, perhaps 9, who looked at Tae-sung with open curiosity. Both had skin that seemed normal at first glance, but when the light hit them right, faint crystalline patterns appeared, shimmering just beneath the surface. Tae-sung walked forward slowly. His legs felt strange, like they belonged to someone else. The children watched him approach. The girl stood protectively close to her brother, her hand on his shoulder. Lyra spoke first. Her voice was exactly as he remembered, musical and precise. "These are yours, human." The words hit him like a physical blow. Tae-sung stared at the children, then at Lyra, then back at the children. "Mine?" His voice came out rough. "What do you mean, mine?" "I was pregnant when I left Earth," Lyra said. Her face remained calm, but he saw something in her eyes that might have been pain. "I did not know until later. By then, returning was impossible. The war had begun." Tae-sung remembered that day 15 years ago. The Valoran Council had recalled all their people with only hours of warning. Something about a galactic conflict that humans weren't ready to know about. Lyra had come to him in tears the only time he ever saw her cry. She said she had to leave. She said she loved him. Then she was gone, and he spent years trying to forget her. He looked at the children again. Really looked at them. The girl had his nose, his chin. The boy had his eyes that exact shade of brown. "You never told me," he said quietly. "I could not," Lyra replied. Communication was forbidden. The war consumed everything. And Valoran reproduction is complex. They needed special care, special environments. I barely managed to keep them safe. The girl spoke then, her voice formal and controlled. "My name is Hana. This is my brother June. Our mother says you are our father." Tae-sung knelt down to be at their eye level. His knees protested, reminding him he wasn't young anymore. "I am," he said, though the words felt impossible. "I didn't know about you, but yes, I'm your father." June stepped forward, studying Tae-sung's face with intense concentration. "You look different than Mother's pictures, older." 15 years will do that, Tae-sung said with a weak smile. "You're both so grown up already. I missed everything." "That cannot be changed," Lyra said. Her voice was gentle but firm. "What matters now is the future. Their future. That is why I brought them to you." Something in her tone made Tae-sung stand up quickly. "Why now? Why bring them after all this time?" Lyra glanced at the children, then back at him. "Can we speak privately?" Tae-sung led her a short distance away, though he kept the children in sight. They stood by the ship, Hana whispering something to June, who nodded seriously. "They are in danger," Lyra said once they were out of earshot. "I cannot explain everything now. There is not enough time, but people are looking for them. People who want to use them. Use them how?" Tae-sung felt anger rising in his chest. "What did you get involved in?" "Something I thought was right," Lyra said. Her calm facade cracked slightly. "Something I believed would save lives. I was wrong. Now I need you to protect them. Protect them from what? From who? From those who see them as experiments rather than children. Lyra reached out and touched his arm, the first physical contact they'd had in 15 years. Her hand was warm. I can only stay 3 solar cycles, roughly 72 of your hours. Then I must leave again or they will track me here and find the children. You want me to take them? Tae-sung looked back at Hana and June. 2 children I just met? My children, yes, but strangers? They are your blood, Lyra said. More than that, they are innocent. They did not ask to be born into this situation. And you are the only person in this galaxy I trust completely. Tae-sung ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of frustration he'd had since childhood. I don't know how to be a father. I'm 45 years old. I live alone in a research facility. I study plants, Lyra. Plants. You were a diplomat once, she reminded him. You negotiated treaties between species who had been enemies for centuries. You found ways to bridge impossible differences. If anyone can help these children navigate 2 worlds, it is you. He wanted to argue more, but when he looked at Hana and June again, he saw they were watching him. Hana's expression was guarded, protective. June's was hopeful, almost pleading. They were so young. Whatever was happening, whatever danger Lyra spoke of, they were just children caught in the middle. 72 hours, Tae-sung said finally. You have 72 hours to explain everything. Then you leave them with me, and I protect them. But I need to know what I'm protecting them from. Lyra nodded. I will tell you what I can. But Tae-sung, you must understand something. The people who want them are powerful. They have resources across multiple systems. Your human stubbornness may be the only advantage you have. Then it's a good thing stubbornness is what we're known for, Tae-sung said. He walked back to the children and knelt down again. I know this is strange for all of us, but your mother brought you here because you need a safe place. I'm going to make sure you have that. Okay? June nodded immediately. Hana studied him for a long moment before giving a slight nod of her own. Let me show you your new home, Tae-sung said, standing up and offering his hands. June took one immediately. After a pause, Hana took the other. Their hands were small and warm in his, one more human in temperature, one slightly cooler like his mother's. As they walked toward his transport vehicle, Tae-sung realized his life had just changed completely. 3 days ago, he was a lonely researcher growing hybrid crops. Now he was a father with 2 children who were somehow in danger. He had no idea what he was doing, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. These children were his, and nobody was going to take them away. The research facility sat in the countryside, surrounded by fields of experimental crops that glowed faintly in the twilight. Tae-sung had chosen this location because it was quiet, far from the crowded cities. Now he was grateful for the isolation. Whatever danger was following these children, at least they would see it coming. Hana and June stood in the guest quarters looking around with different expressions. The room was simple but comfortable, with 2 beds, a bathroom, and a large window overlooking the fields. June immediately went to the window, pressing his face against the glass. Hana remained near the door, arms crossed, watching everything. This will be your room, Tae-sung said. I know it's not much, but we can get more things tomorrow. Whatever you need. It is acceptable, Hana said in that formal way of hers. Thank you for your hospitality. Tae-sung winced at the formal language. She sounded like she was addressing a stranger, which he supposed he was. You can just call me father or dad, or even just Tae-sung if that's easier for now. Hana nodded but didn't commit to any particular name. June turned from the window, his eyes wide. Those plants outside, they glow. Why do they glow? Bioluminescence, Tae-sung explained, happy to have a normal question to answer. I've been combining earth plants with samples from different worlds, trying to create crops that can grow in places where normal plants can't survive. Some of them ended up glowing. That is practical, Hana observed. Light and food from one source. Exactly. Tae-sung smiled. Maybe you inherited my interest in biology. Mother taught us many sciences, Hana said. She said we needed to understand both of our worlds if we were to survive. The word survive hung heavy in the air. Before Tae-sung could respond, Lyra appeared in the doorway. The children should rest. It has been a long journey. Tae-sung agreed and said goodnight to Hana and June. As he and Lyra walked down the corridor, he could hear June asking his sister rapid questions in a mixture of Korean and what sounded like the Velaran language. Hana answered patiently, her voice softer when speaking to her brother. In Taesung's office, Lyra finally began to explain. She sat in the chair across from his desk, her posture perfect as always. Taesung poured tea, something that felt normal and grounding. When I left Earth, Lyra began, I truly did not know I was pregnant. Velaran reproduction is different from human. The early stages are nearly undetectable even to us. By the time I realized, months had passed. The war had escalated. Returning was impossible. What war? Taesung asked. Earth never got clear answers about why all the Valora left. It is complicated, Lyra said, which was what she always said when she didn't want to explain. What matters is that I found myself pregnant and alone, carrying a hybrid child, something that had never been done before. I did not know if the pregnancy would even succeed. Taesung sipped his tea, trying to process this. But it did, twice. Twins, Lyra confirmed. That was unexpected. Valora rarely have multiple births. Perhaps that came from your genetics. My grandmother was a twin, Taesung said quietly. He looked at Lyra across the desk. This woman he had loved so completely 15 years ago. Were you scared? For the first time, her perfect composure broke. Terrified. The pregnancy took 10 years. 10 years of hiding, of running, of keeping them safe in specialized environments. When they were finally born, I had no idea how to raise children who belonged to two species. I taught them everything I could about both worlds, even though I could not bring them to either. Where did you live all this time? Stations, ships, temporary settlements. Anywhere we could hide. Lyra's hands tightened around her teacup. They never had a real home. Taesung felt something twist in his chest. His children had spent their entire lives as refugees, and he'd known nothing about it. And now? What's changed? Why bring them here now? Lyra's expression darkened. Because they have become too noticeable. Their abilities are manifesting. Abilities. They are not fully human or fully Velaran, Lyra explained. They are something new. Something that should not exist according to current biological understanding. And that makes them valuable to the wrong people. Before Taesung could ask more questions, an alarm beeped on his desk. His laboratory system was detecting unusual energy readings. He pulled up the display and stared at the data. The readings were coming from the guest quarters. They rushed back to find the children's room bathed in soft light. Hana stood by the window and the air around her seemed to shimmer. June sat on his bed, eyes closed. And somehow Taesung knew the boy was sensing things far beyond the room, perhaps beyond the facility itself. It happens when they are stressed or tired, Lyra said quietly. Hana can feel emotions, even read them in some ways. June can sense patterns, predict outcomes with accuracy that seems impossible. As if hearing his name, June opened his eyes and looked directly at Taesung. There is rain coming. In 47 minutes. It will last 18 minutes. Taesung checked the weather forecast on his device. It showed clear skies all night. But something in June's certainty made him believe the boy. Hana's shimmer faded as she noticed them watching. I apologize. We are disturbing your equipment. Don't apologize, Taesung said, stepping into the room. You're not disturbing anything. I'm just trying to understand. We are different, Hana said simply. We have always been different. Mother has kept us hidden because different is dangerous. Taesung sat on the edge of June's bed. The boy was looking at him with those two knowing eyes. Different doesn't have to mean dangerous. On Earth, we have a long history of people being afraid of what they don't understand. But we also have a long history of learning to accept new things. Do you accept us? June asked directly. The question was so honest, so vulnerable that Taesung felt his throat tighten. You're my children. That means I accept you completely, no matter what abilities you have or don't have. Hana made a small sound, almost like a scoff. You do not know us. We are strangers to you. That's true, Taesung admitted. But here's what I do know. You're brave. You've been running and hiding your whole lives, and you're still standing here. Still functioning, still taking care of each other. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are. Lyra touched his shoulder gently. We should let them rest. Tomorrow will be difficult. As they left the room, Taesung heard June say to his sister, I like him. Hana's response was too quiet to hear, but he hoped it was positive. Back in the office, Taesung poured more tea, though his hands shook slightly. You need to tell me everything, Lyra. Who's after them? What do these people want? They are called the Kauthari, Lyra said. They are traders, experimenters, collectors of rare biological samples. When they learned that human Valoran hybrids existed, they became obsessed with studying them. Studying them? Taesung's voice went cold. You mean experimenting on them? Lyra nodded. I have been evading them for 3 years. But they are persistent and well-funded. They have convinced themselves that hybrid species are the key to surviving a cosmic phenomenon that is destroying planets. They see Hana and June as research subjects, not people. Over my dead body, Taesung said flatly. That may be exactly what happens, Lyra warned. The Kelthari have resources across multiple systems. They have influence with governments, including potentially Earth's government. They could demand the children be turned over for study. Then we don't let anyone know they're here. That will only work for so long. Their energy signatures are unique. Anyone scanning for anomalies will eventually detect them. Taesung stood up and walked to the window. Outside, his glowing crop swayed in a wind he couldn't feel through the glass. He thought about his quiet life, his simple research, his peaceful isolation. All of that was gone now. In its place was something terrifying and wonderful. I have 72 hours with you, he said, turning back to Lyra. Use that time to teach me everything. How to care for them, how to hide them, how to protect them. And then when you leave, I'll figure out the rest. Lyra stood and walked to him. She reached up and touched his face. The first real gesture of affection since she'd returned. You always were the most stubbornly hopeful human I ever met. Is that why you loved me? Part of it, she admitted. The other part was that you saw me as a person, not just an alien. I hope you can see our children the same way. I already do, Taesung promised. Exactly 47 minutes later, rain began to fall. It lasted 18 minutes just as June had predicted. Taesung stood in his office watching the water run down the windows and realized that his son could see patterns in reality itself. His daughter could feel the emotions of living things around her. They weren't just different. They were extraordinary. And somewhere out there, someone wanted to turn his extraordinary children into experiments. Taesung made a decision in that moment. He had spent 15 years being a quiet researcher, hiding from his past as a diplomat. But for Hana and June, he would become whatever he needed to be. A father, a protector, a fighter, because that's what humans did when someone threatened their family, they fought back. 3 weeks had passed since Lyra brought the children and then left again, disappearing into the stars with promises to return when it was safe. Taesung was learning that fatherhood was nothing like he imagined. It was harder, stranger, and somehow more rewarding than anything he'd done in his life. The morning started like most others now. June woke him up at dawn because the boy barely needed sleep. Hana stayed in bed until the last possible moment because she'd inherited Taesung's tendency to be grumpy in the mornings. They ate breakfast together in the small kitchen, a meal that was part Korean, part Velaran nutrition supplements, and entirely improvised. The plants in Section 7 are sick, June announced between bites of rice. 3 will die unless you change the soil composition. Taesung had stopped being surprised by these pronouncements. June could sense patterns in everything, including the health of crops he'd never directly examined. The boy was usually right. What do they need? More nitrogen. Less water. The roots are drowning. I'll check it after breakfast. Taesung looked at Hana, who was pushing food around her plate. You okay? I am functional, she said in that formal way that meant she was feeling something but didn't want to talk about it. Taesung had learned not to push. Instead, he said, how about we go into town today? Get some new clothes, maybe see a movie? Hana looked up and for a moment her guard dropped. A movie? Like in the old human recordings Mother showed us? Exactly like that, but better. Big screen, loud sound, popcorn. What is popcorn? June asked immediately. Taesung grinned. You're about to find out. Later that morning, his colleague Dr. Bora arrived at the facility. She was a biologist like him, but specialized in xenogenetics. She'd been helping him understand the children's unique biology. When she saw the latest scan results, her face went pale. This doesn't make sense, she said, staring at her tablet. Their genetic code has mathematical sequences embedded in it. Like someone wrote a program into their DNA. Taesung felt cold. What kind of program? I don't know yet, but it's deliberate. This isn't natural mutation or random hybrid mixing. Someone designed this. Bora looked up at him with worried eyes. Taesung, what exactly did Lyra tell you about how these children were conceived? That she was pregnant when she left Earth but didn't know until later. Did she say how long the pregnancy lasted? 10 years. She said Velaran reproduction is complex, Bora shook her head. I've studied Valoran biology. Their pregnancies last 3 years at most. 10 years is long enough to grow the children, yes, but also long enough to modify them, to add specific genetic sequences, to program their development. Tae-sung sat down heavily. You think someone experimented on them before they were born? I think someone created them with a specific purpose, Bora said carefully. The question is what purpose and whether Lyra knew about it. Before Tae-sung could respond, the facility's power flickered. The lights dimmed, then surged bright, then dimmed again. His computer system started showing error messages. The energy readings from the children's quarters were spiking dramatically. They ran to find Hana standing in the middle of her room, surrounded by a field of shimmering air. Tears ran down her face, and the crystalline patterns in her skin glowed bright. June sat on his bed, eyes wide, clearly overwhelmed by whatever he was sensing. Hana, what's wrong? Tae-sung asked, stepping carefully into the room. I heard you, she said, her voice breaking. Your emotions, your fear. You think we are experiments. You think Mother lied? You think we are not real? The emotional impact of her distress hit Tae-sung like a wave. He realized she wasn't just feeling his emotions, she was projecting her own. Everyone in the facility would be feeling this. He knelt in front of her, ignoring the energy field that made his skin tingle. Hana, listen to me. I don't think you're not real. You're absolutely real. You're my daughter, but I do think something happened before you were born. Something your mother maybe didn't tell us about. That doesn't change who you are. Everything we are might be programmed, Hana said, and Tae-sung realized she'd understood far more of Bora's words than he'd expected. We might not have choices. We might just be following instructions written into us. That's not how biology works, Bora said gently, stepping forward. Even if someone added sequences to your DNA, you're still you. Your thoughts, your feelings, your choices, those are yours. Nobody can program consciousness. How do you know? Hana challenged. Because I've spent my whole life studying genetics and I know the difference between code and consciousness. You're not a program, Hana, you're a person. Slowly, the energy field around Hana began to fade. The light stopped flickering. June uncurled from his defensive position on the bed. Hana wiped her tears with the back of her hand, a gesture that was purely human. I apologize for the disruption, she said, falling back into formality. Don't apologize, Tae-sung said firmly. You had every right to be upset. We were talking about you without including you, and that was wrong. From now on, if we discover something about you or your brother, you'll be the first to know. Deal? Hana studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Deal. The word sounded strange in her formal speech pattern, but it made Tae-sung smile. She was learning to be less formal, slowly adapting to human casual speech. That afternoon, they went to town as planned. Tae-sung watched Hana and June experience Earth properly for the first time. They walked through markets filled with food from a dozen worlds. They rode in a maglev train that made June laugh with delight. They stood in front of a fountain in the central plaza, and Hana held out her hand to feel the spray. Water just falls from the sky here, she said with wonder. For no reason. Just to exist. We call it rain, Tae-sung said. I know what rain is, Hana said. Mother taught us. But knowing and experiencing are different things. She looked at him with those human eyes in her half-alien face. You have rain and oceans and rivers. Water everywhere. The Valoran homeworld has to recycle every drop. Earth is wealthy beyond measure. At the movie theater, they ate popcorn and watched an action film with terrible dialogue and amazing explosions. June critiqued the physics while Hana got completely absorbed in the emotional story. When the hero sacrificed himself to save his family, Tae-sung felt Hana's hand slip into his and squeeze tight. On the way home, both children fell asleep in the back of the transport. Tae-sung looked at them in the mirror, Hana's head on June's shoulder, and felt something fierce and protective rise in his chest. Bora had sent him a message while they were out. She'd found more information about the genetic sequences. They matched patterns used by the Kalthari Syndicate, a group known for biological experimentation. Whoever had modified Hana and June before birth had been working for or with the Kalthari. That night, after the children went to bed, Tae-sung sat in his office and made a decision. He opened his old diplomatic files, contacts he hadn't used in years. If the Kalthari were involved, he needed to know more about them. He needed to understand what they'd done to his children and why. But as he worked, he kept thinking about Hana's question. How do you know we're not just programs? It was a deeper question than she realized. How did anyone know they had free will? How did anyone prove their choices were their own? Maybe you couldn't prove it. Maybe you just had to live as if your choices mattered and hope that was enough. Around midnight, Tae-sung heard a soft knock on his door. June stood there in pajamas, looking uncertain. Can't sleep? Tae-sung asked. I keep sensing things, June admitted. Patterns I don't understand. Something is coming, but I cannot see what. Tae-sung pulled the boy into a hug, something that had become natural over the past 3 weeks. Sometimes the future is uncertain. That's normal, even for kids who can predict rain. Are we in danger? June asked, his voice muffled against Tae-sung's chest. Tae-sung thought about lying, about protecting the boy from the truth. But June would sense the deception. These children had lived with danger their whole lives. They deserved honesty, maybe, he said, but I'm working on keeping you safe. That's my job now. Being your father means protecting you, and I'm going to do that job well. Mother said humans are good at protecting things, June said. She said it is your best quality. She was right, Tae-sung agreed. We're very stubborn about the people we love. Once we decide someone is ours, we don't let go. Are we yours? June asked, looking up with those knowing eyes. Completely, Tae-sung promised. You and Hana are mine and I am yours. That's how family works, June nodded, satisfied with this answer. Tae-sung walked him back to his room where Hana was awake, clearly having listened to the entire conversation. Thank you, she said quietly as Tae-sung tucked June back into bed. For what? For choosing us. Even though we are complicated? Tae-sung smiled at her. Everyone is complicated. You two are just honest about it. After they fell asleep, he returned to his research. The Kalthari Syndicate wasn't just experimenting on hybrids. They were creating them deliberately, trying to build beings who could survive something called the Void, a region of space that destroyed normal biological life. Hana and June weren't accidents. They were purpose-built survivors, designed to live through something that would kill everyone else. And somewhere out there, the people who had created them wanted them back. Tae-sung closed his files and looked out at his glowing crops. He was just one middle. The emergency beacon arrived at 3 a.m. Tae-sung jerked awake to alarms blaring through the facility. His security system detected a ship landing without clearance in the North Field. He pulled on clothes and ran through the corridors, his heart hammering. His first thought was the children. His second was weapons. He had neither. But when he reached the landing site, he found Lyra's ship. She stumbled down the ramp, her crystalline skin cracked in places, a dark fluid leaking from a wound on her arm. She collapsed before reaching him. Tae-sung caught her and shouted for Bora. Together they got Lyra inside to the medical bay. The children appeared in the doorway, drawn by the commotion. Hana gasped at seeing her mother injured. June went very still, his face blank in the way that meant he was processing too much information at once. Get the emergency medical kit, Tae-sung told Hana. The blue one. Top shelf. She ran without question. Bora was already scanning Lyra with medical equipment, her face grave. She's been shot with some kind of energy weapon. The wound is cauterized but infected with something my scanners don't recognize. Lyra's eyes opened. Kalthari weapon, she managed. They found me. I led them away, but they know I came to Earth before. They will figure out where eventually. How long do we have? Tae-sung asked. Days, maybe less. Lyra grabbed his hand with surprising strength. I need to tell you everything. No more secrets. The children deserve the truth. Tae-sung looked at Hana and June, both standing rigid with fear. Are you sure? They need to understand what they are, Lyra said, and what they mean to the galaxy. 20 minutes later, they gathered in Tae-sung's office. Lyra sat wrapped in blankets despite the warm room. Bora had managed to stabilize her, but the alien infection was still spreading. They had maybe a day before it became critical. Lyra began speaking, and the story that emerged was far worse than Tae-sung had imagined. The void is real, she said. A region of space that appeared 7 years ago and has been expanding ever since. It destroys everything it touches. Planets, ships, even stars. Scientists across the galaxy have studied it, trying to understand what it is and how to stop it. What does this have to do with our children? Tae-sung asked, though he was beginning to guess. The void does not destroy matter. It destroys biological coherence. Any living thing that enters it dies instantly. Their cells lose cohesion. Their energy patterns collapse. But there was a theory. If you combined different species in specific ways, you might create life forms whose biological frequency could survive the void. Bora leaned forward. The genetic programming we found. That was to make them void-resistant. Lyra nodded. The project was secret, conducted by a coalition that included the Kalthari Syndicate, elements of the Valoran Council, and scientists from a dozen other species. They called it the Convergence Protocol. The goal was to create hybrid children who could survive what pure species could not. You volunteered for this, Taesung said flatly. It wasn't a question. Yes. Lyra met his eyes without flinching. When I returned from Earth, I was approached. They knew about our relationship. They wanted to create human Valoran hybrids because the combination showed promise in their models. I agreed because I believed we were saving lives. I believed I was pregnant with children who would survive the end of the world. What happened? Hana asked quietly. She stood pressed against her brother, both of them listening with expressions Taesung couldn't read. The experiments failed, Lyra said, and her voice broke. Most hybrid embryos died. The ones that survived to birth were mentally unstable. They lived for days or weeks before their mixed biology destroyed them from inside. It was horrible. I watched children die because their bodies could not decide what they were supposed to be. But we survived, June said. You are the only ones, Lyra confirmed. Out of dozens of attempts across multiple species combinations, only you two survived to full development. Only you two are stable. Only you two show no signs of biological rejection. Taesung felt sick. So they want them back. They want to study why Hana and June survived when the others didn't. More than study. They want to replicate. If they can understand what makes your children stable, they can create more hybrids. They can build a population that might survive the void. Lyra looked at the children with something like pain. You were never meant to be people to them. You were meant to be prototypes. Proof that the concept worked. That is why you ran, Hana said, her voice eerily calm. You realized they would never let us be free. I realized too late what I had done, Lyra said. I saw the other children die. I saw how the scientists talked about them, like they were failed experiments instead of lives. When you both survived and stabilized, I knew what would happen. They would never let you go. You would spend your entire existence being studied, tested, replicated, so I took you and ran. The room fell silent except for the hum of equipment. Taesung looked at his children. Hana was crying silently, tears running down her face while her expression remained neutral. June had wrapped his arms around himself, rocking slightly. Come here, Taesung said, opening his arms. After a moment, both children came to him. He held them close, feeling their strange hybrid warmth. It doesn't matter why you were made. It doesn't matter what anyone intended. You're here now. You're alive. You're people, not experiments. They will come for us, June said against his shoulder. I have been sensing it. Ships are already searching. Then we prepare, Taesung said firmly. He looked at Bora. Can you do anything about Lyra's wound? I'm trying, but I need to understand the infection better. It's like nothing I've seen. Kalthari weapons are designed to kill slowly, Lyra explained, to give them time to question their victims. There is no cure I know of. Taesung felt anger surge through him, hot and clean. These people had experimented on children. They had shot Lyra with a weapon designed to torture. They thought they could come to Earth and take his kids. Bora, contact your network, he said, his voice hard. Every xenobiologist, every geneticist you know who might help. We need information about the Kalthari, their ships, their methods, everything. What are you planning? Bora asked. I'm planning to make it very difficult for them to take my children. Taesung looked down at Hana and June. Are you two willing to fight? Not with violence necessarily, but fight to stay free? Yes, Hana said immediately. June nodded against Taesung's chest. Over the next hours, they worked frantically. Bora reached out to her contacts while Taesung activated old diplomatic channels he hadn't touched in years. He called in favors, reminded people of old debts, and made new promises. The response was mixed, but some people agreed to help. The biggest break came from an unexpected source. One of Taesung's former colleagues, now working for Earth's Defense Ministry, sent a warning. The Kalthari had already contacted Earth's government. They claimed Hana and June were stolen property, experimental subjects who belonged to the syndicate. Earth's government was considering the request. They cannot do that, Hana said when she heard the news. We are people. We have rights. Legally, it's complicated, Taesung admitted. You were created in Kalthari facilities using their resources. They might have a claim under galactic law. Galactic law can go to hell, Bora snapped. She had been working non-stop and looked exhausted. These are children. Agreed, Taesung said. But we need more than anger. We need a plan. June had been quiet through all of this, his eyes distant. Suddenly he looked up. We need to leave Earth. If we stay, the government will take us to avoid conflict with the Kalthari. We are not worth starting a war over. The cold logic of it hit Taesung hard. June was right. Earth wouldn't risk galactic conflict for two hybrid children most humans didn't know existed. Where would we go? Hannah asked. Sanctuary, Lyra said weakly from her bed. There are neutral stations, places where refugees can claim protection under old treaties. If you can reach one, the Kalthari cannot take you without starting a major incident. How do we get there? Taesung asked. Your ship? Lyra shook her head. My ship is damaged and tracked. The Kalthari know its signature. You would not reach orbit before being captured. Then we need another ship, Bora said, which we don't have. Building one would take months even if we had resources. Taesung smiled suddenly. What if we already have one? He explained his idea, and by the end even Lyra was looking at him with something like respect. That is the most human plan I have ever heard, she said. Insane, barely possible, and built on hope rather than logic. Is that a compliment? Among your species? Yes. Lyra managed a weak smile. You always were the best and worst of humanity, Taesung. Stubborn beyond reason. That night, Taesung sat with his children on the roof of the facility. The stars were bright above them. Somewhere up there, ships were searching. Somewhere up there, people wanted to turn Hana and June into experiments again. Are you scared? Hana asked. Terrified, Taesung admitted, but also determined. You two are mine. And I am very bad at giving up things that are mine. Mother said that about humans, June said. She said you hold on when any logical species would let go. It's one of our better qualities, Taesung agreed. He put his arms around both children. In a few days, we're going to. The message went out at dawn, spreading across Earth's networks like wildfire. Taesung had spent the night writing it, choosing every word carefully. Bora helped him bypass normal channels and send it directly to independent media sources, social networks, and citizen journalist groups. By the time the government realized what was happening, millions of humans had already seen it. The message was simple. It showed Taesung standing with Hana and June, his hands on their shoulders. He told their story. Not all of it, but enough. He explained that these were his children, hybrids created without anyone's permission, now being hunted by those who saw them as property rather than people. He told the world that Earth's government was considering handing them over to avoid conflict. Then he said something that would change everything. These are my children. They are human children, at least partly. And humanity has always had one rule that we follow no matter what. We protect our children, all of them. Even the complicated ones, especially the complicated ones. If you believe that children are not property, if you believe that families should not be torn apart, if you believe that humans stand together, then stand with us now, because tomorrow they are coming to take my kids, and I need to know if I stand alone. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within an hour, protests began in major cities. People poured into streets holding signs that said, "Protect our children and humans stand together." The way government's communication channels were flooded with messages demanding they refuse the Kalthari request. Social media exploded with hashtags and videos of support. By noon, 3 retired military officers arrived at Taesung's facility, offering their services. By evening, 24 more people showed up, scientists and engineers and ordinary citizens who said they wanted to help. By midnight, there were over 100 people camped around the facility, forming a human shield. Taesung stood on the roof, looking at the growing crowd below. Bora came up behind him. The government is furious, she said. You forced their hand. They have to respond to public pressure now. Will they protect the children? I don't know. But at least now they cannot quietly hand them over. Inside, Hana and June watched the news feeds in amazement. Humans they had never met were marching for them. People were writing articles, making videos, arguing passionately that these children deserved freedom. I do not understand, Hana said. They do not know us. Why do they care? Because that's what humans do, Lyra said from her bed. The infection was getting worse, but she refused to rest. You ask any human why they care about strangers, and they will tell you it is because those strangers could be them. Could be their family. Could be their children. Humans have this strange ability to see themselves in everyone. June was watching the screens with that distant look he got when sensing patterns. It is working. The probability of the government protecting us has increased by 47%. That's still not enough, Tae-sung said. He had been working on the other part of his plan, the part he hadn't told anyone yet. We still need a way off the planet if things go wrong. Bora had been suspiciously quiet about that part. Now she pulled up a holographic display. Remember when I said building a ship would take months? I might have been too conservative. She showed them plans for a ship. Not a traditional ship, but something cobbled together from salvaged parts, experimental engines, and what looked like sheer determination translated into engineering. I have been working on this for years, Bora admitted. A research vessel that could handle extreme conditions. I never finished it because I could not get the power source right. But if we use the energy signatures from the children as a template, if we build dampeners that channel rather than suppress their output, we might have enough power. You want to power a ship with our children? Tae-sung asked, horrified. Not power it with them. Use their energy frequency as a baseline for the engines. It is complicated, but essentially their hybrid nature creates a unique resonance. If we can replicate that artificially, we can build an engine that runs on principles no one has fully explored. Will it work? Hana asked. Honestly, maybe. The theory is sound, but theory and practice are different things. Bora looked at Tae-sung. It is a huge risk, but it is also our best chance. That night they began building. The volunteers who had come to protect the children turned into a construction crew. Engineers worked with scientists. Mechanics worked with theoretical physicists. Someone donated a warehouse full of salvaged ship parts. Someone else provided experimental fuel cells. A former military pilot offered to teach Tae-sung how to fly. I am not a pilot, Tae-sung protested. You are now, the pilot said cheerfully. Do not worry. Flying is mostly not crashing. Hana and June helped where they could. June's ability to sense patterns made him invaluable for troubleshooting. He could look at a complex system and immediately say what was wrong. Hana's emotional sensitivity helped coordinate the workers, sensing when people were getting frustrated or overwhelmed and redirecting them to different tasks. 3 days after the message went out, the Kalthari fleet arrived in Earth's orbit. 5 ships heavily armed, broadcasting demands that the experimental subjects be returned immediately. Earth's government scrambled to respond. The president made a statement acknowledging the Kalthari claim, but asking for time to investigate. The protests grew larger and angrier. Someone tried to hack the Kalthari ships, nearly starting an incident. The tension was suffocating. Tae-sung was working on the ship when he got word that an Earth security team was coming to the facility. Not to arrest anyone, but to talk. He met them at the perimeter where his volunteers stood guard. The team leader was a woman named Commander Yuna. She looked tired and frustrated. I am here unofficially, she said. The government is under enormous pressure from both sides. The Kalthari are threatening sanctions, blockades, even military action if we do not comply. But the people are threatening to burn down the government if we hand over the children. So what will you do? Tae-sung asked. The official position is that we are negotiating. The unofficial position is that we are stalling while hoping you find a way to disappear. She looked at him seriously. I have children. I understand what you are fighting for. But I also understand that Earth cannot go to war over 2 kids no matter how much we want to protect them. I know, Tae-sung said. That is why we are building a ship, I figured. The energy readings from this facility have been interesting. Yuna handed him a data chip. These are the Kalthari ship positions and their patrol patterns. Also their communication frequencies and the locations of every sensor satellite they have deployed. If you are planning to run, this will help. Tae-sung stared at the chip. You are helping us escape? I am doing my job, which is to protect Earth's interests. Right now, Earth's interest is not starting a war. If certain experimental subjects happen to vanish before the Kalthari could collect them, well, that would be unfortunate, but not our fault. She smiled slightly. Humans protect their children, Mr. Tae-sung, all of us, even the ones who wear government uniforms. After she left, Tae-sung gathered everyone working on the ship. He showed them the data chip and explained what it meant. They had maybe 2 days before the Kalthari's patience ran out. The ship had to be finished and they had to launch before then. That is impossible, someone said. We need at least a week more. Then we do a week's work in 2 days, Bora said firmly. Split into teams. Round-the-clock shifts. We do not stop until this thing can fly. What followed was the most intense 2 days of Taesung's life. People worked until they collapsed. Food and supplies appeared from all over, donated by citizens who wanted to help. Children from a local school sent letters of support. An old woman arrived with homemade meals for the workers. The ship took shape slowly. It was ugly, a patchwork of different technologies and design philosophies, but it was functional. Bora ran simulations constantly, adjusting and readjusting based on June's pattern predictions. Lyra's condition worsened. The Kalthari infection was spreading faster now. Bora tried everything she could think of, but nothing worked. I am dying, Lyra said calmly when Taesung sat with her. The infection is designed to be lethal. There is no cure. We could try to get you to a better medical facility. There is no time and it would not matter. She reached out and took his hand. I need you to promise me something. When I am gone, tell the children I loved them. Tell them I am sorry I brought them into this situation. Tell them their mother died trying to give them a better life. Tell them yourself, Taesung said roughly. You are not dead yet. Soon, though. Days at most. Lyra squeezed his hand. Promise me, Taesung. Promise me you will take care of them. I promise. On the second night, June came running to find Taesung. The ship is ready. All systems functional. Bora says we can launch tonight. Taesung looked around at all the people who had helped them, these strangers who had given time and resources and skills to help 2 children they had never met. It was the most human thing he had ever witnessed. He gathered everyone together and made a short speech thanking them for their help. Some people cried. Others cheered. All of them understood that they were part of something important, something that would be remembered. The ship Hope shook violently as it broke through Earth's atmosphere. Alarms blared from every console. Something in the engine compartment was making a sound that no machine should ever make. Taesung gripped the controls with white knuckles, fighting to keep them on course. Engine 3 is overheating. Bora shouted over the noise, rerouting power to compensate. In the back, Hana and June were strapped into reinforced seats. Both children had their eyes closed, not in fear but in concentration. Their crystalline patterns glowed faintly, and Taesung realized they were somehow helping to stabilize the ship's energy systems. Lyra lay on a medical cot, unconscious but alive. Barely. The ship cleared the atmosphere and entered orbital space. For one beautiful moment, everything was calm. Earth spread out below them, blue and green and impossibly beautiful. Taesung had never been to space before. Despite everything, he felt a moment of wonder. Then the Kalthari ships detected them. 3 vessels changing course to intercept, Bora announced, her voice tight with stress. They are moving fast. How fast? Faster than we can go. We have maybe 5 minutes before they are in weapons range. Taesung pulled up the navigation data that Commander Yuna had given them. The wormhole gate to neutral space was on the far side of the planet. They had to make it there before the Kalthari caught them. Simple. Impossible, but simple. Hang on, he said, and pushed the engines to maximum. The Hope accelerated with a sound like reality tearing. The ship was not built for this kind of speed. Parts of the hull started glowing from friction with stray particles. But they were moving, faster than Taesung had thought possible. The Kalthari ships adjusted their pursuit. 2 came at them from angles, trying to cut off their route. The 3rd stayed directly behind, pushing them forward. They are hurting us, June called out from the back, forcing us toward the 2nd ship. In 37 seconds, we will be in their optimal firing solution. Ideas? Taesung asked desperately. Do not be where they think you will be, June said, as if it was obvious. Taesung laughed despite himself. His 9-year-old son had just given him tactical advice. He studied the pursuit vectors and made a decision that would either save them or kill them instantly. He dove toward Earth. What are you doing? Bora screamed. Being unpredictable, Taesung said through gritted teeth. The Hope plunged back toward the atmosphere, falling like a rock. The Kalthari ships hesitated, clearly not expecting this move. Their formation broke as they adjusted to follow. Taesung skimmed the upper atmosphere, using the friction to whip them around in a tight arc. The ship groaned and shook. Pieces of hull plating tore away. But when they came out of the turn, they were heading toward the wormhole gate at a completely different angle. That was insane, Bora gasped. Did it work? We gained 15 seconds. They are still coming, but we have a slightly better chance now. The space around Earth was full of debris, old satellites and abandoned stations from before humanity joined the galactic community. Taesung dove into this maze of junk weaving between dead satellites and chunks of metal. The Kalthari ships followed but had to slow down to avoid collisions. They are not used to this much debris, Bora said with growing excitement. Most spacefaring species clean up their orbital paths. Only humans leave this much garbage floating around. Finally, our messiness is useful, Taesung muttered. A weapons blast seared past them, missing by meters. The Kalthari were firing now, trying to disable the engines. Another blast hit their port side, shaking the ship. Shields down to 40%, Bora reported. We cannot take many more hits. Hana's voice came through the intercom, calm despite the chaos. Father, I can feel their emotions. The pilots are frustrated. They have never fought against this kind of flying before. They think you are broken making random choices. Taesung grinned fiercely. That was exactly what he wanted them to think. He pulled another impossible turn, using a dead space station to block their line of sight. When he emerged on the other side, one of the Kalthari ships was too close. Acting on instinct, Taesung fired their mining laser. The tool was designed to cut through asteroids, not fight ships. But at close range, it was devastating. The beam carved a line across the Kalthari vessel's hull. The ship reeled away, trailing atmosphere. You hit them, Bora shouted, barely. That will not work twice. But it bought them precious seconds. The wormhole gate was visible now, a shimmer in space that marked the entrance to faster-than-light travel. They just had to reach it. Just had to cover the distance before the remaining Kalthari ships caught them. Another weapons blast hit their rear. The ship shuddered and the lights flickered. Engine 4 is down, Bora said, and 5 is failing. We are losing power. How much farther to the gate? 2 minutes at current speed. But we are slowing down. Taesung checked their trajectory. They were not going to make it. The math was simple and brutal. The Kalthari would catch them 30 seconds before they reached the gate. Then June's voice came through again. Father, we can help. Hana and we can give the ship power. What? No. That is too dangerous. Our energy signatures cause disruptions because the ship cannot handle them, June explained with frightening calm. But if we feed power directly into the engines, consciously controlling the output, we can boost the speed. You have never done anything like that before, Taesung argued. We have never needed to before. Hana's voice joined her brother's. Let us help. We are not just passengers. We are part of this crew. Taesung looked at Bora, who was rapidly running calculations. It could work, she said reluctantly. But if they lose control, the energy feedback could kill them. We will not lose control, Hana promised. Taesung wanted to refuse. Every instinct screamed to protect his children, to keep them safe. But they were right. This was not just his fight. It was theirs too. Do it, he said. But at the first sign of trouble, you stop. Understood? Understood, both children said together. The change was immediate. The engines roared with new power. The hope surged forward, accelerating beyond what should have been possible. Behind them, the Kalthari ship struggled to match their speed. Through the monitors, Taesung could see Hana and June in the back. They sat facing each other, hands clasped between them. The crystalline patterns in their skin blazed with light. They looked beautiful and terrifying and utterly focused. The wormhole gate grew closer. 50 seconds away. 40. The Kalthari were firing constantly now, but the increased speed made them harder to hit. Then disaster struck. One of the shots hit their power core. The entire ship went dark for 3 seconds. When the lights came back on, half the systems were offline. We lost navigation, Bora said frantically, and shields are gone completely. Can we still reach the gate? If we survive the next 20 seconds, yes. 20 seconds felt like a lifetime. The Kalthari ships closed the distance. Weapons fire filled the space around them. The Hope was hit again and again, each impact tearing away more of the ship. Bora was thrown from her seat when an explosion rocked the ship. She hit her head on a console and collapsed. Taesung was alone at the controls now, flying blind with half the instruments dead, being shot at by ships he could not outrun. But the wormhole gate was right there. So close he could almost touch it. Hana, June, he called out. How are you doing? Tired? Hana's voice came back, strained. But we can hold on. Get us through the gate, Father. The last Kalthari ship pulled alongside them, so close Tae-sung could see the aliens inside. They were preparing to board, to take the Hope by force. Tae-sung made one final choice. He cut all power to the weapons, life support, everything except the engines. Every bit of energy they had left went into one last burst of speed. The Hope leaped forward. The Kalthari ship fell behind, and they hit the wormhole gate at a speed that should have torn them apart. The universe turned inside out. Colors that had no names swirled around them. Tae-sung felt like he was being pulled in 17 directions at once. He heard Hana scream, heard June shout something, heard his own voice crying out. Then everything stopped. They were through. Tae-sung slumped in his seat, shaking. Every muscle hurt. His head felt like it was splitting open. But they had made it. They had actually made it. He checked the sensors. They were in neutral space now. Far from Earth, far from the Kalthari fleet. The ship was barely holding together, systems failing one by one. But they were alive. He unstrapped and stumbled to the back. Hana and June lay unconscious in their seats, the glow faded from their skin. He checked their vital signs with shaking hands. Both were alive, just exhausted. Bora was coming around, groaning and holding her head. Did we make it? We made it, Tae-sung confirmed. He went to Lyra's cot. She was awake, looking at him with eyes that seemed far away. You did it, she whispered. You got them away. We all did it, Tae-sung said. You, me, Bora, the children, all those people on Earth, we all fought for them. That is the most human thing, Lyra said, smiling weakly. Fighting for others even when it is not logical. Even when the odds are impossible. She closed her eyes and her breathing slowed. Tae-sung sat beside her, holding her hand, as the ship drifted through space toward Sanctuary. They had escaped the Kalthari. They had run the gauntlet and survived. But the 3 months had passed since the escape. Tae-sung stood on the observation deck of Sanctuary Station, watching ships come and go against the backdrop of stars. This place existed outside normal galactic politics, a neutral zone where refugees from any species could claim protection. The station was old, built by a coalition of species who believed in second chances. Behind him he heard the sound of running feet. June appeared, slightly out of breath, holding a tablet. Father, look at this. Commander Yuna sent another message from Earth. Tae-sung took the tablet and read. Earth had officially rejected the Kalthari claim to Hana and June. More than that, they had introduced a proposal to the Galactic Council, declaring that all sentient beings had rights regardless of how they were created. The proposal was gaining support from unexpected species. The Kalthari are facing sanctions from 12 different civilizations, June explained excitedly. Because of what they did to Mother. Because of what they tried to do to us. Everyone saw how humans responded, and now other species are asking questions about similar programs. Where's your sister? Tae-sung asked. Teaching, June said. She has been working with the other hybrid children who came here after hearing about us. Tae-sung followed his son through the station corridors. Sanctuary had become home to dozens of hybrid children over the past months. Once humanity's dramatic stand became public knowledge, others had emerged from hiding. Children born from experiments like Hana and June, children who had been running their whole lives. They found Hana in one of the community spaces, sitting with 5 younger children. She was helping them understand their mixed heritage, teaching them meditation techniques that combined human and Velaran practices. When she saw Tae-sung, she smiled. That smile still surprised him sometimes, how it lit up her whole face. The changes in his children over 3 months had been remarkable. Hana had learned to express emotions more openly while keeping her Valoran wisdom. June had grown more confident, using his pattern sensing abilities to help station operations predict maintenance needs and avoid problems. But the biggest change was that they felt safe. For the first time in their lives, they were not running. Break time, Hana announced to the children. They scattered toward the food dispensers, chattering in a mixture of languages. You are good at this, Tae-sung told her. Teaching them. Someone has to, Hana said. Most of them have no idea how to exist as hybrids. They have been told they are mistakes their whole lives. I am showing them they are not. Your mother would be proud, Tae-sung said softly. They both fell quiet. Lyra had died 2 days after they reached Sanctuary. The Kalthari infection had finally consumed her, but she had lived long enough to see her children safe, long enough to know they would be protected. In her final hours, she had made Tae-sung promise to help other hybrids if any appeared. He was keeping that promise. Bora came around the corner, moving with purpose. Her head wound had healed. Though she still had a small scar she refused to have removed. She said it reminded her of what they had accomplished. "The council delegation is here," Bora announced. "They want to meet with all of you." Tae-sung had been expecting this. The Galactic Council had been investigating the Convergence Protocol, the secret program that had created hybrid children. They wanted to understand what had been done and why. The delegation consisted of representatives from 7 species. They sat across a large table from Tae-sung, Hana, Jun, and Bora. The lead representative was a tall being from a species Tae-sung did not recognize, with skin like polished stone. "We have completed our investigation," the representative said. "What we found was disturbing. The Convergence Protocol involved dozens of unauthorized experiments across multiple species. At least 47 hybrid children were created. Only 6 survived to adulthood. 2 of them are your children. What happens now?" Tae-sung asked. "The Kalthari Syndicate has been sanctioned. Their experimental programs are shut down. The scientists involved are facing charges." The representative looked at Hana and Jun. "And the survivors are being offered full citizenship in any member state that will accept them." "What about Earth?" Hana asked. "Earth has already filed the paperwork. You are recognized as human citizens with full rights. You can return whenever you wish." Jun leaned forward. "What about the Void? The thing we were supposedly created to survive?" The representative's expression became grave. "The Void continues to expand. It has consumed 7 systems in the past year. We still do not understand what causes it or how to stop it. The theory that hybrids might survive it remains untested, and probably will remain untested," Tae-sung said firmly. "My children are not experiments. Whatever the Void is, humanity will find another way to deal with it." "Actually," Bora interjected, "we have been working on that. The energy patterns we discovered in the children have applications beyond survival. We think we can create shields that might protect ships and even planets from the Void's effects. No living subjects required, just the mathematical principles behind their biology." "You have been researching this?" Tae-sung asked, surprised. "Someone has to," Bora said with a shrug. "The Kalthari had the right idea about hybrid biology containing answers. They just went about it in the most terrible way possible. We can study the science without harming anyone." The delegation seemed impressed. They asked Bora many technical questions, which she answered with enthusiasm. Tae-sung watched his friend and realized she had found her calling. She was going to help save the galaxy using science and ethics combined. After the delegation left, the family walked through the station together. It was a strange family, Tae-sung reflected. A middle-aged human father, 2 hybrid children, and a scientist who had become part of their circle. But it worked. They passed through a garden section where plants from 100 worlds grew together. Hana stopped beside a fountain watching the water flow. "I never get tired of watching water," she said. "Earth is so wealthy in it. The Valoran worlds have so little. We will go back to Earth soon," Tae-sung promised. "Once we are sure it is completely safe. You can see all the oceans, all the rivers, all the rain you want." "I would like that," Hana said. "But I also want to help the other hybrid children first. Some of them are still in bad situations. Some are still hiding. We will help them," Tae-sung agreed. "All of them." Jun was looking at something on his tablet, frowning. "Father, there is a problem developing in Section 12. The environmental controls are going to fail in approximately 9 hours unless someone fixes the coupling." "How do you know that?" one of the passing station workers asked. "I can sense the pattern," Jun said simply. "The system is stressed in a way that will lead to failure." The worker checked her own equipment and her eyes widened. "He is right. The diagnostic did not even catch this yet." "How did you see it?" "I just see things," Jun said, uncomfortable with the attention. The worker thanked him and hurried off to fix the problem. It was the 3rd time this week Jun had predicted maintenance issues before they became serious. The station administrator had offered him a job which made the 9-year-old laugh. Back in their quarters, Tae-sung made dinner using ingredients from Earth and several other worlds. Cooking had become his hobby, combining flavors in ways that matched his hybrid family. Tonight was Korean stew with Valoran herbs and vegetables from a planet he could not pronounce. They ate together, talking about their day. Hana described the progress her students were making. June explained a new mathematical principle he had discovered while studying the station's systems. Bora talked about her research and showed them preliminary results that looked promising. It was normal. It was domestic. It was everything Taesung had never expected to have. After dinner, a message came through from Earth. Not from Commander Yuna this time, but from thousands of ordinary humans. They had recorded messages for Hana and June, telling them they were welcome, telling them they were family, telling them to come home when ready. The children watched the messages with wide eyes. People they had never met, people who had only heard their story, were offering love and acceptance. "I do not understand humans sometimes," Hana said quietly. "Why do they care so much about strangers?" "Because to humans there are no strangers," Taesung explained. "Only family we have not met yet. It is both our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. We care too much. We get involved in things that are not our business. We fight for people we barely know. But that is what makes us human. We are only half human," June pointed out. "Then you get to choose which half to use," Taesung said. "The best parts of being human and the best parts of being Velaran. You get to be something new, something better than either species alone." That night, Taesung stood on the observation deck again, looking at the stars. Bora joined him, holding 2 cups of tea. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Your quiet life is gone. You will never be just a researcher again." "Not even a little bit," Taesung said honestly. "I spent 15 years hiding from life because losing Lyra hurt too much. But now I have Hana and June. I have purpose. I have family. How could I regret that?" "The Kalthari are not finished," Bora warned. "They lost this round, but they are still out there.